Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark, or the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1966 film noir mystery drama Harper.
He's an alcoholic. That's just for openers. I also think he's losing his mind.
Hey, that's not entirely true. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1966 with Harper.
The Harper. Yeah, the Harper.
The Hopper.
Harper. Harper.
Hopper.
This movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 73% fresh rating from the audience. It has just a star-studded cast, starring Paul Newman as Harper, who we will see later on in my review of Cool Hand Luke, Lauren Bacall as Mrs. Sampson, Shelley Winters as Faye, Julie Harris as Betty, Robert Wagner as Taggart, Janet Leigh as Susan Harper, Arthur Hill as Graves, and Robert Webber as Dwight. He was also in 12 Angry Men, which I also reviewed. So this movie, like I said, it has a star-studded cast. And for film noirs, for me, they're really hit or miss. I'm going to be perfectly honest. And this movie was a bit of a miss for me. The fact that they had so many stars in this movie, I really felt that they were trying to just give each of them like a fairly sizable role. And it made it really hard for me to keep track of who all the characters were. When Harper was throwing out names of people that he was suspecting, or people that he was calling, or people he thought he was looking into, I honestly had a really hard time keeping track of all of this. That being said, all the actors do a really, really great job. I just think that they were trying to do too much. I think this movie is like 2.5 hours long or something like that. It is just incredibly long, and I think that's just because they were trying to give all these stars their own presence in the movie, and I really think that hurt the movie quite a bit. And then, of course, Paul Newman is a great actor. He does a really good job in this. He's funny when he needs to be. He is also serious. He's sarcastic. He looks like he's having a lot of fun with this role, but he's definitely not the caliber of like a Humphrey Bogart from The Maltese Falcon or Robert Mitchum from Out of the Past. And for a movie that's like 100% fresh, I really expect the lead actor of his caliber to just put on a fantastic acting performance in his role. And I just think he did a good job, but I felt like at some points it was a little bit lazy. So essentially what this movie is about is Harper is a detective who is kind of down on his luck. He hasn't had a really big case and he's kind of running low on funds. He decides to skip the signing of his divorce papers because he's offered this big job to find this guy named Mr. Sampson.
Where is he this time?
I'm up in San Teresa.
Tell her Albert Graves called, said he needed me for something. She'll understand.
Something about Albert Graves needing him, and you'll understand.
No, I don't.
Mr. Sampson is a very wealthy, kind of eccentric man who is missing. No one can find him. His wife is looking for him. He goes and he talks to Mrs. Sampson, who is played by Lauren Bacall, and she basically is worried. She's disabled. She's not able to, go out and look for him herself. So she is worried that he is like squandering the money that she's going to be leaving to her in his inheritance.
Oh, he said you were good at finding things.
And she just wants to make sure that he's not doing that. And she says, if he's with a girl, which he probably is with a girl, let me know, because I'd be very interested in knowing if he's kind of fraternizing around with someone else. While at his house, he meets the daughter of Mrs. Sampson, who is supposed to be portrayed as like this beautiful young girl like you would have in like a film noir. I guess she's kind of the femme fatale, but not really Harper's femme fatale. There's another gentleman named Graves who is interested in this woman, or this girl. He's probably in like his, I don't know, at this time it's hard to tell how old people are. They look a lot older than they are. I'd say he's probably in his late 30s, early 40s, but I would probably go more towards the early 40s, and she's probably like 18 or 19 years old. So it's this typical movie where the much older guy is falling for the younger female. Now, they make jokes about it in this movie. He says, "What, you don't think you think I'm too old for her?" And Harper will say, "Oh, I think you're old enough to be her grandfather."
You're old enough to be her grandfather.
Go to hell.
So he's kind of helping Harper. He got Harper the job because this guy, Mr. Sampson's like a client of his, and he's also worried about Mr. Sampson, about how like eccentric he is. At the same time, Harper meets the pilots, I guess, the personal pilots of Mrs. Sampson's daughter, but they're also, I believe, in like a relationship as well. And through the course of the movie, there's a lot of twists, there's a lot of turns, there's a lot of, for me, mixing up who people are. And then at the end of the movie, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm not going to give away the end of the movie. So like I said, Harper is trying to find where Mr. Sampson is. Is he alive? Is he dead? Was he kidnapped? At some point in this movie, he's not sure if there was a kidnapping or if Mr. Harper just went off, like, or Mr. Sampson just went off on his own somewhere. Eventually, we do realize there was a kidnapping. There's kind of a handful of people involved in this kidnapping for different reasons they have. And it's a bit convoluted, I would say. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people who are involved. There's a lot of people who he has to investigate. You really have to remember who these people are. Now, I remember who these people are by sight, not necessarily by who their names are, which doesn't really help me when I'm doing a review. But I will say at the end of the movie, let's say there's 3 or 4 people who were closely involved in this kidnapping. In the very beginning of the movie, was able to guess 3 of them. So it's like, in a film noir, I feel like if you're going to have twists and turns and you're going to have like different mechanisms going on in the plot, that at some point you should second guess yourself. You should be able to say, oh, well, this evidence now shows that maybe I was wrong, and maybe like at the end of the movie, I'm going to be surprised. But that never happened in this movie. I think they clearly lay out throughout the movie people's motives, and you are clearly able to see at least 2 people at the end of the movie who are involved in this. And it was kind of a letdown. I really was hoping that I was wrong. I was really hoping that it was something else. But it wasn't. It was very easy to guess. For a movie that you have to invest so much of your time in, it just wasn't for me. Not only that, there's also a really, I would call it a very bizarre point in the movie where Harper runs into this like religious guy.
Have you come to seek salvation?
Who, by the way, is also, I'll at least spoil this part because I think it's fairly obvious that he is also somewhat involved in this. Well, he's very involved in this kidnapping as well. You get subtle hints, like he says to Harper, oh, you think I'm probably up here like squandering people's money and like taking people's money when I shouldn't be because I'm taking donations because I'm this holy man. At that point, you can pretty much tell that maybe he's involved somehow. They're trying to subtly tell you that he's a bad character, even though he's trying to convince you that he's not a bad character. But anyway, there's this part, I would say, towards the middle to end of the movie where Harper goes to this guy's temple, and Harper has basically figured out at least a couple of the moving pieces, at least a couple of the people who are involved in this kidnapping. And then, like, out of the bushes and out of the brush come, like, a bunch of Hispanic people.
Corazon.
¿Qué pasa?
Stay right there.
I'm like, is this like a zombie apocalypse? Like, where are all these Hispanic people coming from out of the brush and out of the bushes? And they end up like capturing Harper, and they try to explain it later on in the movie that the holy man is working with like he's bringing in illegal immigrants, and these illegal immigrants are like working for him under the table when they shouldn't be, and it's like this big deal at the end of the movie. And I just thought it was very bizarre. I thought it was very weird, and not in like a bizarre way where you just sit there and you really think about it and you're like, that's weird, but that's awesome. That's really cool. That's an amazing thing that they put in this movie. To me, it was just like a bizarre thing that, like, why is it there? It's so out of left field, and it's so weird to me that it just took me completely out of the movie. I wasn't a fan of it at all. I would say the character that Shelley Winters plays also, she plays a bit of an alcoholic.
You want to have a little drinky?
No, it stiffens up my chewing gum.
Oh!
Anyway, you're too classy for a place like this.
A bit of a drunk in this movie. And I would say her acting is great in this movie, but I don't know, her character just it wasn't a character that I could get into, and I could tell. I mean, Harper is playing her; he's trying to get information from her, and I thought it was plainly obvious what Harper was doing, to be perfectly honest. And a lot of the things that Harper does in this movie, where he's trying to get information from people, he's putting on different accents. He's doing a lot of things to try to be like that good detective, that good sleuth who's getting information about things. I just thought it was all very obvious to me. Like, if I'm on the other side and I know that I'm involved in a crime, and I know that I'm doing something illegal and I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, it is very obvious to me that he is trying to get information from me. I really felt that. Because there was a point in the movie where there's this girl, I think it's Betty, who she is a former drug addict and she works as like a singer at a lounge. He's talking to her and she's like, I bet you're, and then she said some sort of profession that I don't remember. And he's like, hey, how'd you know? Did I really give off those vibes that easily? And he's obviously just taking information, he's collecting information from her and just using that and running with it. And I just felt that it was all a bit too obvious. I felt that he was a bit transparent with everything that he was doing. I don't know. I thought this movie was okay. The plot, like I said, to me, there's too many characters in the movie. The plot is a bit too confusing. It's all over the place, really, when he's trying to figure out who's doing what and where everyone is and who's involved and who's not involved. I prefer a much tighter film noir where there's less characters, where you can kind of, there's not only less characters, but they treat the characters a little bit better, where each of them have their own motive, but they also have a reason why they might not be doing this. And you have to really try to decide in your head who could it be, who has the best motive. And I don't really think they provided that in this movie. He was kind of he was reactionary to things that were happening, I felt like, and you didn't really have the time in your head to decipher things. You didn't really have time in your head to try to figure things out. You really didn't have time in your head to play detective yourself, which is like my favorite part of these type of movies, is where I can put on my detective hat and try to figure out what's going on. But when it's reactionary and when they don't give you enough information up front, it really doesn't work. And I thought that was kind of the way this movie was, where it didn't work in the way that I think they were wanting it to. I really think the writing is kind of lazy, to be honest, and it's really sad because there's so many actors, there's so many fantastic actors in this movie, but I also think that hurt it quite a bit, where they were just trying to give everyone too much to do, and it just confounded and confused things a little bit. So that's my review of Harper. I give it a 7 out of 10. And I hope you join me next time. I think it's probably going to be tomorrow. We'll see how things go. But I hope you join me next time when I review War and Peace, which is a 7-hour movie. And I've only watched half of it. When my computer died, I only got halfway through it. But I have a new graphics card now. So that's exciting. And now I can continue doing what I enjoy. So thank you. I hope you have a great day.